Today I'll be showing you how to replace the choke knob and cable, the whole apparatus, on a Harley Davidson Evolution engine. This is a big twin, 1991 FXR. So first you need to determine if you really need to replace it. So if your problem is that when you pull it out, it doesn't stay out and it goes back in, there is a tension adjuster right here. If you turn that in, that's a little too much. Turn it in, then it sets the tension in such a way that it'll function properly. So now I've got it set by turning it clockwise. I've got it set tight, so it'll stay out until I want to push it in. So if that doesn't work, like on this bike, that didn't work, so I ended up replacing it, which you'll see in the video to follow here. So try the tension adjuster first. If the tension adjuster doesn't work, then do what you're about to see. You normally, if you wanted to be safe, you'd take the gas tank off of the bike when you do it to avoid beating up your gas tank. In my case, this is an FXR. 1991 FXR lowrider. I have unbolted the tank bolts, the bolts that hold the back of the tank on, and I've just raised it up about the width of my thumb to give it a little extra clearance. And then to actually take this out, now on the back of this there's a lock washer that's nice and that's very pointy. And this pointy lock washer, if you're pulling the cable out and lift it up, could scratch up the bottom of your gas tank. So that you're aware of that when you're doing it, you want to unscrew this plastic, it's not really a nut, but this plastic circular deal to free up the cable. I put my hand up here to keep it from banging into the gas tank, and then just push it upwards, and now it is off to the side. So this half is done. Now when I go to pull it out, to keep this from scratching anything up, I'm going to put some tape around this. Alright, step one of course is turn the fuel off. And on this 1991 FXLR Harley, off is that position you see there with it turned forwards. Halfway between on and reserve is off. Alright, on the carburetor side, remove the air cleaner. I already did that. I figure you probably don't have a stock air filter anyway, so you'd have to do yours however you do yours. We're going to take off this hose, which is the fuel line. We're going to pull up this vent hose. There's a vent hose that goes down here through the transmission, kind of an overflow hose in case the needle valve gets stuck open or something. Alright, next up at the handlebar by your throttle, you've got an adjuster that you can use to create some slack in your throttle line. And then when you go back down to the carburetor, I'll widen this out a little bit. And just open it up so you basically open the throttle and then use the slack to pull the accelerator cable out. And this one has a push-pull throttle, so it has two cables, one pushes and one pulls. So we want to just make sure that the other one, the secondary one, is also disconnected. It's a little harder to get at. It's behind here. Come on. Okay, now there we go. So now both throttle cables are removed from here. Now the carburetor just pressure fits in here. There we go. So that is carburetor freedom. Alright, on the back of the carburetor you can see there's a tube that goes over there to that solenoid. Some kind of vacuum advance mechanism. So you want to disconnect that to get the carburetor free, as well as taking all of the throttle cables, both of the throttle cables off of the throttle cable, off of the throttle mechanism. Well, you can see here where the choke cable is connected to the carburetor. That is a nut, a plastic nut, so you can get a wrench on there and just start undoing it. You want to make sure that your new choke cable is the same length as your old one. So in this case, I checked ahead of time, made sure I ordered one that matched the Harley part number of the original. So that's going to fit just fine once I get the other one out of there. I'm just undoing it, and it comes out like that. You need to pull the spring down in order to get the cable out of this hole and twist it to the side, and then it will fall to the earth. So I'm going to clean up this thing and then put it back in there with a fresh cable. Alright, so the old cable, we just sort of gently twist and turn. Try and get it loose from this ancient rubber housing without breaking it. There we go, so that's out of there. Checking again for length, making sure that they're the same length. The new one, in this case the new one's about ½ inch longer than the old one, but I'm sure that can be made up with slack. I mean, it's not going to be too short at least. And then we just feed that into the new elbow. Alright, so now I fit the spring and then take the cleaned up valve, enricher valve, slip it on there with the spring on it. Test it out. If I pull the choke lever, it works. If I pull the choke lever, on this end the choke lever stays out until I push it back in, so that's good to see. So it will actually do what it's supposed to do. Now we just thread that back into the carburetor body. Now the black nut part of this is separate from this rubber boot, so you just have to thread the black nut part in gently, hold it, and then bring the rubber boot back down, thread it, kind of like you would work a socket wrench. There we go, until it's all the way on. And then just tighten it up, not too tight, but snug with a wrench once I've gotten it down to the end. Now we gently feed the carburetor back into place here, feeding the choke through to the other side, where we'll hook it up later. Alright, back on the other side of the bike, here is the choke cable. We want to back off the nut here and push back this pointy washer, the lock washer. And then when you look at the cable, there's thinner screws and thicker screws. Let me see if I can get a shot of that. So the screws are thicker here than they are here. So you want to back off this nut so that the thinner screws are exposed, so that you can sort of press them down into the bracket here. Oh, get back down in there. There we go. And then tighten up the tension in the back nut to get it tight in there. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It feels like it's going to just be stuck there forever. And then tighten up the tension on the front. No, there is a rubber cover here on this particular one, and then underneath this rubber cover there's like a nut, but without any corners, that you screw down to create tension to hold it on here. So once those are on there, then when you want to choke it, you pull it, you are choked. And you can see the choke stays choked until I say that's enough choking, and then it goes back to normal. So we're good. And then if you want to loosen up the tension on the choke, you back this one off, and then the choke slips in and out. So that's what wasn't working on mine. Now, if you think your choke is broken, but maybe it just needs adjustment, try turning this in. And that will create more tension on the choke lever. I think I'll make a separate video about that, because I would hate to see somebody do all this when it wasn't really necessary. Now on mine it was necessary. Mine was cranked in all the way and it still had no tension. Whatever was inside there creating the tension was worn out after 20 years of vibrating. So I hope this helped, and happy choking to you.